Can you absorb negative emotions from others? Isn't that a good person? Outland Demon Suxin Suxin has just benefited greatly from the world of Hokage, and everything is moving in the direction he planned. Unexpectedly, the world will collapse and the will of the world will perish. Turns out everything was not a coincidence. Blue Star is in danger. He formed the Fourth Scourge Corps and directly incarnated as a capitalist of all evil's tentative world. Naruto, One Piece, Death, Dragon Ball. Chapter 1. Memory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The yellow toy teddy bear that fell to the ground, the panicked two-ponytailed girl, the out-of-control cement tanker, beep, the deep and piercing sound of the whistle sounded, and the image of the sidewalk intersection was like a mirror shattered, growing countless spider web cracks. Suxin's body trembled violently, waking up from his sleep and suddenly sitting up with both hands propped up on the bedboard. He let out a short and urgent gasp, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. The dimly lit room was filled with a faint musty smell, with broken furniture and old kerosene lamps swaying to outline twisted shadows. Here we go again. Suxin gradually calmed down and let out a soft sigh. He couldn't tell which was his true self, whether it was a social animal worker from the 21st century or a bottle-picking youth approaching adulthood in a slum. Recently, this dream has appeared extremely frequently, making it difficult for him to distinguish between dreams and reality. Is such a beautiful world a real existence? Braised pork belly with fragrant lips and teeth, and fresh, plump, warm, delicate white rice. Suxin pursed his white lips and took out a tattered paper bag from his pocket. Gently flipping open the surface of the paper, inside was a black pancake that was 1/3 the size of a palm. He took a bite, chewed lightly, and a foul smell rushed straight to his forehead. Wrinkling his brows, he swallowed the black pancake particles that tasted like coarse sand, and solemnly wrapped the black pancake and stuffed it back into his arms. This is the cheapest food in the slums, called black insect cake, which is said to be processed from a special type of farmed insect. His gaze was somewhat hollow, as he gazed at the tattered wooden board beneath him, feeling a strong sense of cleavage. The things that were taken for granted in dreams have now become unattainable extravagance. Now, I am at least an urban warrior in that world. After more than a decade of survival skills and combat training, he is not only physically challenged, but also outstanding in all aspects among this group of trainees in impoverished areas. This is the end of an endless world, where the will of the world on the brink of destruction is being awakened with the help of awakeners, devouring fantasy worlds and radiating new vitality. What has happened here before is unknown to Suxin. The mist of the end has divided the entire human civilization into countless gathering places, and those who come into contact with it will gradually lose their consciousness and become terrifying monsters. The will of the world is in favor, and there is a civilization fire in the gathering place that can dispel the mist of the end. Everyone can awaken their talents and enter the fantasy world at the age of 18. People constantly bring back the power of imagination from the fantasy world, maintain the burning of civilization, and protect gathering places from the erosion of the mist of the end. He has no way to judge the future of humanity, and Suxin is not optimistic about his own future. Tomorrow, in addition to the trainees in the slums, there are also some young people from ordinary families and life winners from the sanctuary who will enter the fantasy world with him. He once witnessed the training of those people. Some of them are wearing expensive exoskeleton armor, and their combat effectiveness is amazing. Some are no longer human in appearance, with strange-shaped heads or limbs. The instructor who trained them said that some of these people have undergone physical transformation, some have some foreign ancestry, and some families have inherited incredibly powerful martial arts. In summary, these people and their muddy legs are not from the same world. Moreover, Suxin and other ordinary students are not on the same starting line. His parents were unwilling to be mediocre and gave up their glorious work of adding bricks and tiles to the human population. They violated the laws of the stars and forcibly entered the fantasy world before both of them died. The starry law stipulates that residents who have reached the age of 30 and have no hope of entering the period of transformation must stop entering the fantasy world and engage in the great movement of creating and educating people. These people will receive population subsidies ranging from 100 to 2,000 fantasy coins per month issued by relevant departments, giving birth more. Some people with life skills can also obtain some jobs, such as planting, breeding, nurturing, maintenance, and so on. After becoming an orphan, Suxin drifted from a civilian area to a slum. Most of these are lonely elderly people whose children have all died in a fantasy world, or old bachelors who cannot marry a wife. Orphans like him are the only ones. Uncle Lee from the garbage bin looked at him pitifully and asked him to pick up some bottles and cans from the school every day to exchange them for a few insect cakes to eat. Only then did Suxin barely survive. Fortunately, the training schools in the gathering place offer free courses, otherwise he might not have been able to learn even the most basic combat skills. Of course, these courses will only teach some basic skills, and some special skills can only be learned in martial arts schools by spending fantasy coins. Suxin has been eating insect cakes for over a decade, and his body is severely malnourished, making it very difficult to practice the most basic breathing techniques. Therefore, he only learned basic breathing techniques, basic shooting, and lurking in the free courses. At other times, he carried a torn sack on his back and picked up bottles at school. Just to exchange a few more insect cakes and alleviate the strong hunger caused by practicing basic breathing techniques. He once wanted to look for some ways to get a loan in the past, but those institutions and individuals directly criticized him after a brief understanding of his background. Oh! Cluck cluck, in the distance, there was the sound of roosters crowing, and there was a slight light outside the pitch-black window. Suxin shook his head and dispelled the tangled thoughts. He reached out and took the lampshade by the bed, extinguishing the kerosene lamp beside him. Recently, more and more people have gone missing in the slums, and he is worried about his own safety, so he didn't turn off the lights in the middle of the night. I hope to awaken practical talents or skills and move out of here as soon as possible. Putting on the women's teddy bear slippers picked up from the garbage dump, Suxin pushed open the door and walked out of the tin room. He walked to the public sink and picked up a handful of water with his bare hands. Looking down at his reflection in the water, Suxin's mood was somewhat complicated. A head of slightly uneven short hair, a thin face, and a very dirty face. It seems that I haven't washed my face for a long time. It's not that he doesn't want to maintain a clean and refreshing appearance, this appearance is not a good thing for his current situation. Since seeing an old bachelor scrutinizing his gaze with lewd care, he has never washed his face again. Gently burying his face in his palm and rubbing it, sewage kept flowing down his fingers. After washing for a few minutes, he finally revealed his original appearance. Clear facial features, slightly excessively fair skin, clear eyes with resolute gaze. Starting today, he will embark on a brand new life. At most, it's just like his parents who passed away early, dying in a fantasy world. Are you, Xiaosu? A familiar voice came from behind, and a little old man in a yellow coat of about 50 looked at him curiously. It's me, Uncle Lee. Why are you looking for me so early? Suxin was a bit curious, not knowing what Uncle Lee was doing to him so early. Usually, he would go to the recycling bin to find Uncle Lee after school. Aren't you going to participate in the awakening trial today? This is the fantasy coin you have accumulated and sold in bottles over the years. Let's add it up to 1,000 for you. The fantasy world is a great opportunity to change one's destiny, but there is only one chance. Seize it well. Uncle Lee took out a slightly dirty bronze card from his pocket, with the number 1000 printed on it. This is an anonymous universal fantasy card that can absorb the power of fantasy and convert it into fantasy coins. The numbers on it will also change according to the amount of fantasy coins stored. He stuffed the bronze card into Suxin's hand and patted his shoulder. Suxin looked at Uncle Lee, who was somewhat old in front of him, with mixed feelings in his heart. The bottles he had picked up over the years were not worth so many fantasy coins. Uncle Li's real name is Li Tianqiu. His wife died of difficult childbirth in her first child, leaving only a boy named Li Ran, 1 year younger than Suxin. Suxin felt that he couldn't do it to such an extent, as it was a change of place and not a relative. His eyes seemed to have sand in them, slightly turning red. Uncle Li, even if I borrow these fantasy coins from you, I will definitely repay them twice in the future. Suxin clenched the bronze card tightly, turned around and left without looking back. Since coming into this world, he has not been able to control himself for the first time. Chapter 2. Extraterritorial Demons. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the square of the gathering place, there is an old and huge stone statue. The statue held a torch in its hand, and a golden flame was blazing brightly on the torch. About hundreds of young people gathered in front of the statue, seemingly waiting for something. Their only commonality is that they are both 18 years old this year, and they are here today to awaken their talents. In front of the statue, there are 3 figures sitting upright. Behind them was a huge table with backpacks piled up into small mountains. The command personnel guided them to stand in 3 rows and line up in sequence. The host fiddled with the portable speaker twice and stood up from the chair. Today is the day of awakening in the gathering place. Before entering the fantasy world, I have a few words to explain to everyone. No matter which district you come from, whether you are poor or wealthy, the first thing you need to do is to survive. Your luck is good today. There are 2 adults from the Star City. The host pointed to a man and a woman sitting next to him. These 2 people were wearing combat uniforms shimmering with silver radiance, and their eyes were somewhat indifferent. They nodded expressionlessly at the audience below. These 2 adults come from the Cybertron family. If you can follow these 2 adults in the fantasy world, at least it won't be a problem to save your life. If you can take a step closer and gain the appreciation of the 2 adults, you can have the opportunity to go to the Star City. Suxin clearly felt some commotion in the surrounding crowd. Is it really a big shot from the Star City? If we can enter the Star City, we can at least struggle for 10 years less. Suxin looked around at the young people who were the same age as him. Their equipment is much stronger than him. Some of them are wearing armored swords, while others are wearing mechanical exoskeletons with metallic luster. The person in front of him carries an RPG, while the person behind him carries Gatling on his back. The worst person also needs to carry a composite bow or a long sword. Only he came empty-handed. At this moment, most people are looking at the young men and women on the podium with scorching eyes. Even young people in sheltered areas wearing exoskeletons are no exception. Suxin appeared excited on the surface, but in his heart he sneered, if you want the horse to run, at least give the horse a bite of grass. I won't eat this cake. In his previous life, he had eaten countless pancakes drawn by his boss. Tired of it. But others seem to be very eager to eat. Suxin plans to stay as far away from these 2 people on stage as possible after entering the fantasy world. The equipment on these 2 people's bodies shows extraordinary combat power at first glance. What else should they do? Do you share the benefits? The value of a person lies in having self-awareness. It is important to understand what value one has for others. Suxin believes that it is likely to be a pathfinder or similar activity, and can also be used as bait if necessary. The host was very satisfied with the reaction of the young people on stage, showing a kind smile. Your awakening trial this time lasts for 10 days, and the first teleportation usually randomly transports you to some safer locations. Did you see these backpacks placed on my desk? This is a backpack specially prepared for newcomers, worth 300 fantasy coins and weighing 20 kilograms. There is a voice reception board inside, a set of constant temperature combat suits, a standard pistol, a standard dagger, 200 bullets, a matchstick, and 3 days of dry food and drinking water. Purchase is not mandatory. Newcomers who do not need to purchase can leave the queue, while those who need to purchase can maintain their current queue. No one left. Obviously everyone knows the importance of these things. If transported to the desert or other extremely harsh environments. Without these things, the probability of survival is basically zero. No one is willing to save these 300 fantasy coins with their own lives. The voice reception board can receive messages sent from the base. You are all newcomers, and if you can enter the base, you can definitely safely return. Let me emphasize once again, your main task is to survive. Your life is the most precious thing in our gathering place. The host's eyes were full of emotions and sincere. Suxin felt that if in his past life, this host would have no problem becoming an actor. Are you all ready? I hope I can see you all again in 10 days. Ready to teleport. After speaking, the host took out a bronze card from his pocket, raised it above his head, and placed it on the knee of the huge statue. The numbers on the bronze cards were frantically decreasing, while at the same time a faint golden glow covered the entire field, and all the young people in the field disappeared in an instant. The light golden radiance slowly dissipated, and the host smiled, thinking to himself that he had earned a lot of fantasy coins again this time. I also brushed off a sense of presence in front of 2 future adults. It's like making a fortune. He turned his head to look at the huge stone statue, and his smile suddenly stopped. The golden spark in the hand of the huge stone statue emitted a red glow, appearing extremely eerie. What's going on? Why didn't you enter the preset fantasy coordinates? A red light appears on the spark, indicating that the teleportation has entered an unknown fantasy world. This kind of situation has not happened for more than a decade, and who knew he would bump into it? What if 2 adults fold inside? He doesn't know how others will end up, and his own fate will definitely not be much better. He sweated on his forehead and gritted his teeth. He took out his walkie-talkie and adjusted the communication channel. Hello, Olaf, are you there? Get ready. Gather all awakened beings below the level of transformation in the gathering place, bring the fantasy world space anchor, and come to the statue square. Obey me. In theory, the emergence of new fantasy worlds is a good thing. If we can successfully open up new fantasy worlds, it will bring huge benefits to everyone in the future. However, the safety of the 2 adults and his own lives is at stake, and he cannot take any risks. Even if 90% of these people who enter will die inside, as long as the 2 adults can return smoothly, then these sacrifices are worth it. The new coordinates cannot accommodate the entry of transformational levels and stronger entities until the awakened one returns. Suxin felt a strong sense of dizziness and was already in a dense forest. Nausea. He was about to observe the situation around him when his stomach suddenly turned upside down. He tilted his head and a black vomit spurted out of his mouth, which was the insect cake he had just eaten in the morning. The light in the forest was somewhat dim, with strands of golden sunlight shining through the branches and leaves, sprinkling on the slightly damp ground. From time to time, there are crisp bird songs in my ears, and the trees in the dense forest are lush, which should be the season of spring and summer. Ignoring the foul smell emanating from his mouth, Suxin clenched his pistol and began to examine his own changes. He can clearly perceive a particular flow of information in his mind, which is his talent and ability. Talent. External Heavenly Demon, SSS++. A demon from outside the domain, extremely evil. Constant Ability 1. You can use Fantasy Coin to magic modify the skills you have mastered. Constant Ability 2. Ignoring mental pollution and attacks, it can absorb negative emotions from creatures within 1 square kilometer and obtain full attribute improvement. There is no absorption distance limit for negative emotions generated by the demon itself. Skills. Basic Shooting, D, Stealth, D, Basic Breathing, D. He grinned from the corner of his mouth. The cheat that came 18 years late has arrived. Being able to absorb negative emotions from living organisms, it sounds like a very sunny and upright talent. feeling the sense of comfort emanating from his body, which he had never experienced in his life. The most advanced talents and skills he has ever heard of only reach the S level, while SSS++ is unheard of. But at first glance, it is clear that it is much more powerful than the S. class because it has several S. Chapter 3. Magic Modification Skills. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In terms of real-time combat power alone, this talent does not bring much powerful combat ability. As for using fantasy coin to magic his own skills, he doesn't know to what extent he can magic his original skills. Just think of it and do it. He takes out the bronze card and based on the information in his mind, the fantasy coins required to strengthen these skills are different. Aiming requires 100 fantasy coins, concealment requires 200, and basic breathing requires 200. Suxin still has 700 fantasy coins left, and he has decided to first modify it to the cheapest one to see the effect. Mastery of Shooting. Magic Modification I, Level C. Significantly improves shooting accuracy, and the bullets fired can cause additional mental damage to the target. This skill can still be modified again, but the cost of modification has increased to 1000 fantasy coins. Just hesitating for a moment, Suxin directly modified all other skills. Shadow Step Magic Modification I, Level C. Continuously consume mental energy to enter the shadow state. The shadow state will stack shadow power, blessing the first attack after exiting the shadow state. Advanced Breathing Method. Magic Modification I, Level C. It can improve the conversion efficiency of body chi and blood, comprehensively enhance physical fitness, and slightly increase body potential. At present it is unclear which fantasy space one is in, and it is also unclear whether there are awakeners teleported to the vicinity of the stronghold. He can now escape into the shadows, and with the means to save his life, he can finally relax a bit. With the talent of an extraterrestrial demon, he is destined to become a strong one. The only question is time, can he live until the day he becomes strong? Z, the voice receiving board in the backpack emitted electrical currents, mixed with blurry words, making it difficult to hear accurately. Suxin raised it above his head, but couldn't hear it clearly. He climbed up a nearby tree and reached a high place. Notify all awakened ones that we have not received the radio signal from our stronghold, and we may have entered a brand new fantasy world. A brand new fantasy world. Suxin was stunned, he didn't know much about the fantasy world. The outside world should already know the news of the new world, and soon someone will bring a space anchor into it. As long as we successfully occupy more than one village gathering place and anchor the space, we can safely return. Please be patient and wait for further news, find a way to survive, and wish you good luck. His voice reception board only has one switch, which can turn on or off the function of receiving voice. Almost everyone received the same backpack as him, except for the young man and woman sitting on stage at the time. If there is anyone who can convey information to others, it could only be them. As a big shot from the Star City, it is normal to have higher level equipment. We can only hold on for now and see if they can gather any useful information, Suxin thought to himself. A strange sound accompanied by a dull collision sounded at my feet. Suxin carefully poked his head down and looked down. He saw a strange scene, and a creature with anime painting style appeared in front of him. That is a large wild boar with sharp teeth, which looks incredibly cute. It was rubbing its body tightly against the tree trunk, its brown skin shining with a healthy glow. The big, round eyes were full of confusion. Suxin's eyes were slightly moist, and tears of sympathy flowed from the corners of his mouth. He recognized the creature in front of him, an exceptionally delicious creature, which was the taste of his dream. He held his breath, activated the ability of shadow steps, and retreated into the shadows. This is a very strange feeling, as if he has entered a mysterious dimension, and everything in front of him has turned gray. Suxin put away his pistol, pulled out a standard dagger from behind his waist, and came to the side of the wild boar. It rubbed against the trunk of the tree, constantly making intoxicated moans. "Thank you." Suxin silently expressed his gratitude, and the dagger in his hand, with the power of the shadow, quickly passed through the throat of the wild boar. The wild boar let out a earth-shattering howl, a mournful cry as life was about to come to an end. It looked at the humans in front of it in terror, wanting to escape, but its body collapsed with a bang, convulsing uncontrollably. This blow was much more powerful than Suxin had anticipated, almost cutting half of the wild boar's neck off. Blood sprayed like a fountain in front of him, but fortunately he could have left with just one blow, otherwise he would have been drenched in blood. The power of this hidden breaking strike carrying the power of shadows is much greater than imagined. His original intention was just to make a hole for the wild boar to bleed and die, but he didn't expect to give it a second. The howling and fear of the wild boar before his death made him feel like he had eaten some supplement, and every cell in his body seemed to be cheering and jumping. "I can't be such a pervert." Suxin shook his head and forcefully suppressed his bloodthirsty and intoxicated feelings. He saw a golden ball of light popping up next to the wild boar, and reached out to put the bronze card into the ball of light. The number on the bronze card has changed from 200 to 201. Killing creatures in the fantasy world will drop some fantasy items and fantasy coins, which can be absorbed using fantasy cards. The stronger the organism, the richer the rewards it can obtain. The bodies of wild boars can actually be recycled into fantasy coins, but Suxin wants to open up meat. He skinned the wild boar according to his dream memory, then opened its belly and removed its organs. He used a dagger and a tree trunk to make a simple wooden barbecue stand, similar to the primitive barbecue method. He found some flammable wood in the forest and lit a bonfire with a matchstick, starting to roast wild boars. High-end ingredients often only require the simplest cooking methods. The art style of this world is not quite right. Once my appearance appears in front of the locals, I'm afraid I will soon be treated as an alien. Suxin sat on the tree, contemplating the current situation. Two different creatures with different art styles, if they can coexist peacefully, there will be ghosts. As soon as they meet, they must use their dog's brain. Just like the awakeners of the Star City who first entered the Orc world, they went through various pursuits, and later the Sky City powerhouses took action to completely conquer the Orc world, turning it into a backyard for taking and seeking. If you come to a fantasy world with particularly abnormal combat power and run to the human city with great fanfare, you simply don't know how to die. Why don't you taste the specialties of this world first? The rich aroma began to diffuse, and the surface of the wild boar had already turned golden. Pipa, golden oil dripped continuously from under the wild boar, splashing clusters of flames on the burning red wooden stick. Suxin quickly descended from the tree into the shadows and turned into a physical entity in front of the barbecue grill. The shadow step skill is particularly useful, as it can easily pass through various obstacles without any significant cost. With his current mental strength, it is not a problem to continue using it for more than half an hour. Gently cut a large piece of golden flesh on the hind leg of the wild boar with a dagger. Oil and meat juice kept dripping down the cutting edge, making a sizzling sound. Suxin placed the meat chunks in front of his nose and took a deep breath. It's that smell, he closed his eyes, it's the smell in his dream. He opened his eyes, their eyes flickering with anticipation, and slowly pushed the meat into his mouth. Crunch, the crisp sound of crispy skin shattered, it was a unique movement interwoven with sebum and chunks of meat. Warm and mellow, with a overflowing aroma, and meat juice flowing on the tongue, leaving an endless aftertaste. Suxin looked up and breathed a long sigh of relief. This is the life that people should live. Chapter 4. White Eyes and Transformation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I didn't expect the modified breathing technique to make me a foodie. Suxin looked at the wild boar skeleton in front of him and remained somewhat silent. His digestive ability is surprisingly good now. He ate a wild boar and there was no significant change in his abdomen. He just felt that his strength seemed to be stronger, and his muscles also slightly bulged. Advanced breathing techniques are improving his physical fitness at an unprecedented speed. He clenched his fists with both hands and felt his whole body filled with strength. Suddenly, there was a hurried sound of footsteps in the forest, and Suxin quickly hid his figure and retreated into the shadows. "Let's explore and walk, cough." Suxin could vaguely hear some familiar words, but he didn't understand the meaning behind them. After spending 100 fantasy coins, he successfully mastered this language, which was originally called Japanese. Damn it! The task information given is right here. Where did it go? Young Master Ping, don't complain anymore. Let's search again and we will definitely find it. A mere D.level task, how can it stump me? I want to become the man of the 5th generation of Fire Shadow. Suxin couldn't figure out why the island country anime he had dreamed of appeared in his fantasy world. 3 incredibly smooth-skinned, little figures, jumped out from the nearby bushes, with a distinct illustration style, and one of them had white eyes all over. They were wearing clothes of different colors, with a silver forehead protector printed in the shape of leaves, fixed to their heads with black straps. It is difficult for Suxin to view them as the same species, just like watching NPCs in online games. Huh. Why is this place so fragrant? Look. What's over there? The boy with white eyes pointed at the wild boar with only its skeleton left, loudly reminding the 2 people beside him. A few people ran with their hands back to reach the vicinity of the wild boar skeleton. The fire here has not been extinguished yet, so people should not have gone far. The boy's iris quickly turned pure white, and the blood vessels around his eyes were clearly visible. He kept scanning the surrounding environment, but suddenly he threw a painless path towards Suxin. It's really not cute. Suxin murmured to himself as he approached the white-eyed boy with a ghostly figure. The white-eyed boy slapped towards Suxin's position. Ping Tai, what's wrong with you? Calm down a bit. Did you get a hallucination spell? The 2 ninja children next to them held onto the white-eyed boy one by one, with a worried expression. Let go of me, there's an unknown creature in front of me, I can see faint life energy. Pushi. Suxin shook his head and quickly appeared, stabbing the white-eyed boy who was being held by his companion with a dagger in his hand, and then his figure quickly disappeared. 2 ninja children panicked and quickly fled, leaving behind the white-eyed boy. Suxin couldn't let them leave. He took out his pistol and shot both of them in one go, killing them on the spot. Several light clusters appeared on the fallen ninjas. Suxin carefully examined the white-eyed boy in front of him, which looked like a piece of paper, and reached out to pick up the object beside him that emitted a golden light. This is a fantasy crystal in the shape of an eyeball. White eyes, level C. Obtain white eyes after consumption, but will suffer certain mental pollution. Recovery price 300 fantasy coins. The other 2 individuals have developed a skill crystal called Transformation Technique, level C. They can obtain a transformation skill after consuming it, but they will suffer a certain amount of mental pollution. Recovery price 100 fantasy coins. The 3 of them together provided a total of 300 fantasy coins. As for the price of recycling, Suxin naturally will not entrust it to the will of the world for recycling. When we return to the gathering place, the prices of these skills can more than double. However, these 2 skills are very useful and will greatly facilitate his actions in the fantasy world. He casually threw 2 crystals into his mouth, and a hot current appeared in Suxin's eyes, adding 2 more skills to his skill bar. He spent 400 fantasy coins to modify these 2 skills as well. Breaking Blind Eyes Magic Modification I, Level B. Consume mental power to activate Breaking Blind Eyes, and upon activation, gain the ability to see through, see far, gain energy insight, have a full view, and break through restrictions. Phantom Transformation. Magic Transformation I, Level B. Can completely imitate and replicate a humanoid creature, with a body size change range of 30% to 300% of its original form. Only by giving the wrong name, there is no talent for awakening the wrong. He felt more and more like the extraterrestrial demons in his previous life's novels. His pupils have turned white and look a bit eerie. With a movement of his mind, his body kept shrinking and eventually transformed into a boy with white eyes. Hirata. My full name should be Hinata Hirata, right? I changed into the boy's clothes, packed all my belongings into a backpack, and hid them on a hidden tree trunk. He recovered the bodies of the three and turned them into the power of fantasy, increasing the number on the bronze card by 3 points. Suxin wants to use his advantages to gain certain benefits from this fantasy world. Otherwise, once the stronghold is built, he does not believe that this fantasy world can withstand the Star City coalition that has swept away countless fantasy worlds. He dare not take action against the protagonist of the fantasy world. According to the feedback of the world's will, once the protagonist of the fantasy world is killed, the entire fantasy world will go berserk. Killing the protagonist can certainly gain immense fantasy power, but the danger factor is too high. During the great rampage of the world, the power of space will be completely isolated, and all the strong forces of this fantasy world will appear at the same time, constantly fighting against the killer. Imagine the scene of Daitsuki Kanzuya and Daitsuki Shizuki forming a group to beat him, and Suxin felt the chrysanthemums tighten. You can't be tough. The fantasy world is not the real world, and the specific principle is not yet clear to Suxin. However, the emergence of the Naruto world is definitely related to him. Although there will also be human beings and creatures of other races in the world that the star cities used to explore, there has never been an anime world. He lay down in place and pretended to be unconscious. Previously, those three people should have been a ninja team, and the team leader did not follow. Obviously, these tasks were not very dangerous. The three of them have been carrying out the task but have not returned yet. The team leader will definitely go to search for them. This is Suxin's my infiltration plan. He wants to do something big. He knows all the subsequent plot, and it's unreasonable for him to continue living in the wilderness. As for the disappearance of the two teammates, it can be entirely attributed to the fellow travelers in the Star City. He still remembers the appearance of those two people in the first row. Their strength is so strong, there shouldn't be any accidents, right? Ping Tai. Ping Tai, what's wrong with you? Wake up. Suxin felt his body shake and slowly opened his eyes. A young man with white eyes appeared in front of him. Pain, my head hurts so much. Suxin covered his head and rolled wildly on the ground, howling mournfully. What exactly happened? The young man with white eyes looked anxious, and Ping Tai was his favorite junior. He volunteered to become the other party's team leader. Teacher, my head hurts so much. Two strange people just appeared, and I fainted as soon as it turned black in front of me. Where are Cindy and Jay? Where have they gone? I don't know, I didn't know anything after I fell into a coma, but I remembered the two people's looks. They looked very strange and could be recognized at a glance. Suxin lies incessantly, even lying doesn't require drafting. Maybe something big happened. Let's go back to the village first and go to the Huiying building. The young man with white eyes picked up Suxin and walked away, quickly disappearing into place like an electric shock. Chapter 5. Infiltrating Wood Leaves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suxin lay on the shoulder of this white-eyed young man, who was not yet aware of his name. The other party's speed was very fast, and soon they entered the village and arrived in front of the Huiying building. In a deep vermilion color scheme, the front of the building is engraved with the words, "In the midst of the fire's national wood leaves," and a huge stone statue carved with the faces of ancient fire shadows stands directly above the top floor. The young man placed Suxin on the ground and took him to the Huiying office on the top floor. Dong dong dong, the young man took a deep breath, raised his hand, and gently knocked on the door of the office. Come in. A low and gentle voice rang out from the office. The young man with white eyes led Suxin respectfully into the room and closed the door with his backhand. Lord Huiying. I have something important to report. Oh. It's Hinata filial piety. Let's talk about what's important. This is a spacious office with bright lighting, with portraits of past fire shadows and some honor badges hanging on the walls. Looking at the old man in a white robe in front of me, wearing a bamboo hat with the word fire written on it on his head, his face covered in wrinkles, and he had a white beard. He was holding a pipe and swallowing smoke. Suxin knew that this was the current leader of my village, with 3 generations of fire shadow. Monkey Flying Sun / Lord Huiying is like this. Our class's Xiaoren team was attacked by an unknown person while carrying out a D.level mission today, and 2 people went missing. Have you ever had a head-on confrontation? What is the opponent's origin? I was not present at the time, but Hirata witnessed the appearance of those 2 people with her own eyes, which can definitely provide useful clues. Oh. Ape Flying Sun / slowly turned his head and calmly looked at Suxin. Did you see their faces? Yes. Lord Hokage, I can draw them. These 2 are very distinctive and can be recognized at once. Monkey Flying Sun Zhan gave him a slender brush and white paper. He sketched out the man and woman on a piece of paper from his own memory, with a similarity of about 7 parts. These 2 people are very strange, they don't look like normal humans at a glance. Their skin is very white, they have a head of golden hair, and a pair of blue eyes. Suxin handed the painting to Sandai Mu Huiying while adding his own description. You have also encountered it. Today, a malignant injury incident was discovered in the village, which is very similar to your description. The police caught a strange person using a strange weapon, who can shoot powerful hidden weapons through a black weapon. Suxin secretly roast that this is the unlucky guy who started with the difficulty of hell. I have arranged for Ibrahim to be interrogated next door, and I believe there will be a result soon. You guys come over together and I'll just ask who those 2 people are. Monkey Flying Sun / and the 2 of them arrived at the interrogation room, pushed open the door, and walked in. Suxin saw a man with a naked upper body, bound by chains. He was soaked all over, tilted his head and collapsed on the iron frame, emitting a faint smell of urine. Suxin has some impression of this man, who was one of the young people standing in the same echelon as him during the teleportation. Lord Huiying, he has already recruited. He said he comes from a different world and is just an unknown person from another world. They have brought in about 300 people this time, including 2 officials, just for the purpose of killing. A tall man with scars on his face bowed respectfully to the Monkey Flying Sun / Ape Flying Sun / nodded slowly and communicated softly with Ibishi for a while. Everything is right. The person who attacked Hinata today is the leader of this group of people. Evil guests are approaching the door. By the way, take this picture and show him if he recognizes these 2 people. Ape Flying Sun / handed Suxin's painting to Ibishi and took a deep puff at his pipe. Ibishi held the painting and gently walked over to squat down next to the prisoner. The man's hands and feet kept trembling, curling up in a ball. Answer well, as long as you honestly explain, I won't make things difficult for you. Ibishi's expression was indifferent, as if looking at an ant. Do you know these 2 people? Who are they? He pinched the corners of the paper with both hands and displayed the 2 people depicted on the paper in front of the man. The man lifted his slightly cloudy eyes and his lips trembled slightly. They are the great figures of this awakening trial, said to be descendants of nobles from the Star City. By the way, they are called the Cybertron family, and they are the highest status individuals of this trial. That's great, so we can all have a pleasant time together. Ibi smiled and her scarred face looked unusually ferocious. By the way, Lord Huiying, they still have a special way to contact each other, but we don't understand what language it is, so keeping him is still useful. I see, there will be another turmoil in the ninja realm. Hinata Takahashi, please take Hinata Hirata down first. Please keep this matter confidential. Notify all upper ninjas to come to the conference hall for a meeting later. The monkey flying sun chopped and rubbed his temples, waving his hand at Hinata Hyuga. Rixiang Xiao sent Suxin to the door of Yao Lamian Noodles, ordered him a Lamian Noodles and left alone, saying that there were other things to deal with. I don't know what period it is now, the 3 generations of old men haven't died yet, and I don't know how strong the protagonist group is now. Suxin was eating Lamian Noodles, and his thoughts kept surging. Uncle Yao, give me a Lamian Noodles, as usual. Oh. It's Naruto. Have you finished school yet? Just a moment and it will be ready soon. Suxin was stunned when he heard the words. He looked up and saw a small yellow hair with a bright smile, dark blue eyes, and 3 lines of cat whiskers on the left and right sides of his cheek. His eyes were shining, and he seemed to be looking forward to today's Lamian Noodles. Yellow-haired little ghost, treat me to a bowl of noodles. Suxin turned his head and joked at Naruto Vortex. The son of the world has not yet graduated from ninja school, and the strongest paper combat force in this world should be Mitsuru Kiba. He is most interested in Orochimaru, but he is currently afraid to appear in front of the other person, otherwise Orochimaru will be interested in him. These shadow-level powerhouses are not something he can handle at the moment. If he were to fight head-on, he might not even be able to defeat a mediocre ninja. Okay. Uncle Yao, another bowl of Lamian Noodles. Hello, I am Naruto Vortex. Naruto Vortex, right. For the sake of treating me to noodles, you will become my friend from now on. If someone bullies you, just give me my name. My name is Hinata Hirata and I am a ninja. Suxin naturally grabbed Naruto's outstretched hand and successfully connected with the world sun. Sigh. Naruto Vortex's eyes were filled with surprise, as it was the first time someone had taken the initiative to become his friend. Is Brother Ping already a formal ninja? It looks like he's not much older than me, Sigui. Come on, you can definitely become a stronger ninja than me in the future. Suxin reached out his hand and made a gesture of encouragement to Naruto. Naruto Vortex will naturally become a more powerful ninja than him, because Suxin is not a ninja at all. Chapter 6. Hinata. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Through casual conversations with Naruto Vortex, Suxin roughly understood the timeline he was currently in. Naruto Vortex is 12 years old this year and will soon graduate from ninja school, officially becoming a ninja. That is to say, in less than a year, the current Hokage monkey flying sun slayer is about to receive a boxed meal. He is not very interested in the skills of the main characters, let alone the cost of killing them, which he cannot afford. He is more interested in the skills of several members in the organization, and if they can be used by him, they will definitely shine in the future. However, there is still a long time before the emergence of the Shao organization, and he still has plenty of time to improve himself. By the way, Naruto, Hinata has something to talk to you about. Let's go to Hinata Mansion together. Sigh. What's Hinata looking for me for? I saw her after class. I don't know either, don't you just know when you go? After eating Lamian Noodles, Suxin followed Vortex Naruto to Rixiang's mansion. He doesn't know where the house of the Hinata family is and needs a guide. The neighborhood of Hinata's house is very quiet, with high walls on all sides and some stone lanterns at the entrance. The huge wooden gate is decorated with the emblem of the Hinata family. Suxin walked forward and knocked on the ring on the door. After a moment, the door opened in response. A maid in her 20s humbly lowered her head when she saw Suxin. Welcome young Master Ping back home. Take us to the training ground. This is Miss Hinata's friend. You can tell Miss Hinata later and tell her that Naruto Vortex is here. Under the guidance of the maid, Suxin brought Naruto Vortex to the training ground of the Hinata family. The training ground is located in a spacious area inside the mansion, with an independent venue. The ground of the training ground is a specially made solid wood floor, which seems to have great resilience. In the center of the field, there are several teenagers who are training, constantly waving their palms and making a slap sound at the training wooden figure. He kept observing the hitting movements of these teenagers, constantly simulating them in his mind. He didn't expect to learn, he just needed to learn basic postures. His dying omen opened his eyes, and even if he didn't use chakra, I believe no one would doubt his authenticity. If someone is unwilling to let go, then all the reasons can be attributed to today's accident. Suxin found a familiar white-eyed teenager in the training crowd, with thick black straight hair combed into a center. It is one of the 12 strong players in the wood leaf industry. Rishyang Ningxi. It seemed that someone was observing him, and Hinata Ningji's gaze met Suxin. He jogged all the way to Suxin's face, slightly bowing, but Suxin felt a pleasant emotion emanating from him. "You kid," honey-tongued and sharp-tongued, Suxin smiled. "Young Master Ping, is there anything wrong with Ning Xi's soft fist? You're playing very well, let's play on the side." Suxin waved his hand to Hinata Ningxi and said lightly. Seeing Hinata Ningxi's attitude towards him, he roughly guessed the identity of this body. A young master from a certain lineage of the Hinata clan. Just one person's negative emotions make their body feel like taking a tonic. It's hard to imagine what kind of changes would occur if there were enough people experiencing negative emotions. Suxin felt that the talent of the extraterrestrial demon seemed to be constantly pulling him in an inexplicable direction. He constantly observed Hinata Ningxi's movements, and the few teenagers trained on the field were among the most pleasing to the eye in his soft fists. He is truly a genius of the Hinata family, but his fate is not very good. The moves practiced by these children are all similar, and they are the most basic soft fists. He did not see the unique skill of the Hinata family. Bagua Empty Palm. If he could learn the Bagua Empty Palm and sneak attack to cut off the opponent's chakra cycle, even if he were to endure, he wouldn't be unable to deal with it. He took off his shoes and walked straight to the center of the training ground. "You guys, accompany me to practice." He casually ordered several younger children to accompany them in training. "It's too slow, hurry up. Did you not eat enough for dinner? You useless people are simply a shame to the Hinata family." He chattered incessantly, constantly beating the children, but unfortunately, some of them even faintly appreciated him. This made him feel extremely uncomfortable, as if he had a nauseous feeling of eating feces in his head. On the contrary, there was a constant stream of disgust and hatred coming from Hinata Nagatsugu, making him extremely comfortable. Suxin noticed Hinata Ningxi beside him, and his soft fist movements were greatly distorted, as if suppressing the beast in his heart. The hierarchy of the Hinata family is strict, and there is a huge difference in the status of the ancestral family and the branch family. Most of the children of the Hinata family have become accustomed to this system, and only a very small number of others strongly dislike it. At this point it was already a bit late, and all the lanterns in the training ground had been lit up. Suxin saw a white-eyed girl with a bright red face standing next to Naruto Vortex, and her short linen hair looked extremely cute. Naruto looked at Suxin, who was exuding great power in the audience, with an excited expression on his face, completely devoid of the intention to chat with Hinata. Brother Pingtai is bullying people again. Even though he has already endured it, he is still bullying children. Hinata puffed her cheeks and said with some anger, not knowing if it was the anger of Hinata or the anger of Naruto. "Ah. Is that so? I thought Brother Pingtai was guiding them in their cultivation. He's clearly a very good person." Naruto Vortex touched his head, feeling somewhat puzzled. "Hinata Ningxi, I need your help in my cultivation." Suxin stared at Rishyang Ningji, who was somewhat flustered, with no expression on his face. "Young Master Ping, I am not your opponent." Hinata Nishi lowered her head, bent down and bowed, and her tightly clenched hand relaxed again. If it weren't for this damn cage bird. He gritted his teeth tightly, and his anger grew even more. Do you dislike the Zone family? Suxin remained silent and put his hand lightly on Hinata Ningxi's shoulder. The people around were all shocked. Can this kind of thing be said in public? Master Ping, don't talk nonsense. Our separated children will always be obedient to the sex orders. Hinata Ningxi quickly knelt down, touching the ground with his head and speaking respectfully. You hate this system of dividing high and low, and you hate some people who can be above without doing anything, am I right? Don't deny it, you can't hide from my eyes. My eyes can see through the secrets of human hearts. Hinata Hirata pretended to open her white eyes and looked seriously at Hinata Ningxi under her feet. Your strength has long surpassed that of the average Xia Ren. If it weren't for the separation of sects and families, you would have wanted to teach me a good lesson, wouldn't you? As soon as these words were spoken, all the members of the Hinata family around them were in an uproar. Hinata Hirata looked around and all the people in contact with her eyes retreated, like avoiding snakes and scorpions. After all, there are no dark thoughts in anyone's heart. Hinata lay on the ground, her veins bulging in her hands and her body trembling slightly. Waves of fear continuously poured into Suxin's body from all directions, constantly enhancing his strength. That's enough. A figure suddenly appeared in the training ground, and the person who came was Hinata Takahashi. Ning Xiai, I'm sorry, Ping Tai lost 2 important teammates today, which is why he lost some composure. He lifted Hinata Ninji, and his efforts towards Hinata Ninji were evident, and he also highly recognized this younger generation. Teacher Xiao, I'm really useless. I'm just a waste. Suxin punched hard on the floor, cracking the floor under him inch by inch. The imagined scene of fist bleeding did not appear, but he still relied on it to suppress his ecstatic mood. Hinata looked at the cracks on the specially made floor in front of her and inexplicably felt a sharp pain in her hand. Just now, it was pure physical strength, and he would never mistake it. When did Hinata's physical strength become so strong? Ping Tai, come with me. Chapter 7. Planning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hinata Takashi and Hinata Hirata arrived outside the training ground. At this moment, the moonlight was like water, sprinkling on the sand outside the training ground. Ping Tai, I know you're feeling sad, but could you be more tolerant towards your tribe members? Teacher Xiao, I want to become stronger. I want to personally kill all those strange people from other worlds. Suxin clenched his fists tightly, his body trembling slightly, and his acting skills were excellent. Ping Tai, please calm down and don't let hatred deceive your eyes. Our class's Shaoran team may face dissolution or restructuring due to downsizing. I would like to ask for your opinion. Hinata Takahashi's voice was also somewhat low, as his Nishin Gumi had just been formed and had already reduced 2 members. I don't even accept it. They must not have died yet, they must be waiting for us to save them. Teacher Xiao, I want to join the dark side. Suxin clenched his fists and bowed to Hinata Hyuga. Our Hinata family has the approval of Hokage, so there is no need to join the dark side. Although the secret forces are advising the village every year, hoping that we can arrange some manpower to join the secret forces, they have not been successful. Have you figured it out yet? This may be a path of no return. Hinata looked at Hinata, who was completely different from before, and couldn't help but feel that hatred can really change a person. I've figured it out. I hope you can approve of my decision. Suxin was resolute, his expression full of determination. Your hard power may not be good enough, but with your white-eyed pupils, there shouldn't be any problem. I will report to Lord Huiying tomorrow. The appointment letter and attire of the members of Hinata Hirata's dark side were quickly distributed to Suxin's hands. Bai Yan has unparalleled advantages in tracking, surveying, and observation in all aspects. It can be said that it can play a huge role in the entire process of executing tasks in the dark. Suxin believes that only by entering the dark department can he obtain the latest intelligence in a timely manner. Although he is familiar with the plot of the Hokage world, he has a premonition that he should not be able to stay for too long. I don't know when the members of the Sabrian family will be able to build their stronghold, and once it is built, they can return at any time. When the time comes, it may be the situation where the Cybertron family is promoting the 5 major ninja villages. His plan is to obtain some precious fantasy items from the secret vault of the Hokage building. He has to avoid some strong opponents, as they may have some means to perceive him. With his current strength, if he doesn't find a way to make a profit, he may never have such a good opportunity again. Suxin feels that there are many doubts about his current identity, and if that sibling falls through, he is likely to be suspected as well. The appointment letter instructed him to go to a remote training ground in the east of the village in the middle of the night, dressed in black and wearing a cat face mask. Suxin knows that this is not just a simple onboarding process, but also a test. He used the shadow step early in a deserted place. He entered the dark department today. Under the deep night, Suxin transformed into a non-existent shadow and arrived at the location on the appointment letter. White eyes, open up. He silently recited in his heart, and a black and white world appeared before his eyes. Several figures emitting blue light were lurking on the tree next to the training ground. The shadow transformed by Suxin drifted silently under the tree. The disadvantage of this shadow step is that it can easily be seen as abnormal when there is no obstruction during the day, and it is simply a divine skill at night. Time is running out, why hasn't there been any movement? Shoo, don't be caught, what a shame. You're overthinking it, how could it be? You haven't seen anyone, maybe he gave up on his own. Suxin watched 3 masked people whispering softly on the tree, and upon hearing their voices, it was likely 3 men. Hello, uncles, are you the contacts who have been hired by the dark department? Suxin stood out under the tree and looked up, shouting softly towards the tree. Whoosh whoosh. The 3 figures flashed, and 2 of them had already placed Kowu on his neck. Suxin raised his hands, his tone somewhat casual. Ah, a few uncles, this is not interesting anymore. The strength of the ninjas in the dark is much stronger than he imagined, and he has no ability to resist in direct confrontation. You're qualified, give yourself a code name. Overeating, I can eat better. The 3 of them did not make things difficult for Suxin anymore, but instead reported their code names. Civet Cat, Tianzong, Wild Boar. Among them, Tianzong is the class leader of their dark department class. Our class is mainly responsible for the night guard of the Huiying building. Recently, Huiying Lord has issued an order that all members of the dark department should be vigilant. Recently, several special humans have been caught, and it is said that there is also a monster with a lizard head. According to the latest intelligence, these special humans have captured the village of Inren in the land of Tanji. Inren village, isn't that the territory of Orochimaru? Will Orochimaru fall into the hands of these people? Are the young masters and ladies of the Sabrian family so strong? Still, Orochimaru is not currently in Inren village, but it's not important anymore. Since Inren village has been occupied, it is highly likely that the stronghold has already been built. That is to say, in about 7 days, he will teleport out of the fantasy world. The task of guarding the Huiying building was even more boring than Suxin had imagined. Several people are hiding in 4 directions of the Huiying building, blowing bird whistles every once in a while. If an abnormality is detected, it is an immediate long beep. If no abnormality is detected, it is a 3-tone short beep. During the alert period, Suxin repeatedly transformed into a shadow and went to the Huiying building to inquire about the situation inside the building. The first floor is the reception area and the place where office staff handle daily affairs, and valuable items should not be here. The second floor is a storage area for some administrative, conference, and archives, and Suxin believes that the sealed book is likely hidden in a certain room here. He roughly figured out the situation here, and the rooms here are not very like places where sealed books are stored. But he clearly remembered that Naruto had obtained the Book of Seals from the Hokage building. Was it deliberately given to him to steal? He opened his eyes and used perspective to carefully examine every corner, finally discovering a secret room at a corner. Time was running out of time, and he quickly turned into a shadow and returned to his original position. GG, the whistle for the disbandment of the second and third shortens sounded, and Suxin responded with a second whistle. It seems that there is no chance today. The sky had already broken, and in front of the third generation of Fire Shadow Ape Flying Sun Slayer, he was unsure if his shadow step could avoid the opponent's perception. He plans to take action in the next few days, and for some reason, he has a feeling of being targeted. Suxin returned to his residence and changed his dark clothes. He covered himself with a blanket and fell asleep. Soon, he let out a slight snoring sound. He is still a physical fetus, so he needs to conserve his energy before taking action. Hinata stood above the roof, his eyes cold and sharp. He felt that something was wrong with his students these past few days. Perhaps I was too worried. He sighed in his heart, his figure flickered, and disappeared on the roof. Suxin, who was under the blanket he didn't know, was staring at him coldly with his eyes open. Indeed, it's you, Hinata. Filial piety. Suxin couldn't help but feel that Hinata's intuition was very keen, but the other party probably wasn't very certain either, otherwise they would have already taken him. This identity seems too prominent. There are too many strong players in Konoha. After finishing this ticket, hurry up and leave. In the future, we should still do fewer adventurous things. Suxin pondered in his heart and slowly fell asleep. Chapter 8. Actions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Suxin woke up, it was almost evening. He opened his eyes to dispel delusions and did not notice the existence of Hinata. Filial piety. It seems that there is only some suspicion, and it has not attracted special attention yet. Suxin pushed open the door and walked out of the room. Hello, young Master Ping. What do you want to eat today? Arriving at the family's food service office, the beautiful maid bent down and asked. Whatever you have, just upload it. The more, the better. In the strange gaze of the maid, Suxin quickly eliminated the food that was constantly being delivered. Tempura, grilled meat, covered rice, cooked in Kanto. His stomach is now like a bottomless pit. No matter how much food he eats, it doesn't seem to feel full. Young Master Ping, I'm very sorry, but the kitchen has informed me that there are no more ingredients left. While Suxin was feasting on his special food, the maid approached with some caution to remind him. It's okay, go inform the kitchen to buy, after all, others also need to eat. Suxin waved his hand with a cold face, gesturing for the maid to step down. He is ready to leave today, and the ready-made wool will not be harvested. His physical fitness has become much stronger than before, and if he can obtain a large amount of fantasy coins at once, his growth rate will definitely be faster. As night fell, Suxin's dark team gathered again. Tianzong was the first to speak up and conveyed new orders. Tomorrow we have a new task. This is the last time our class will guard the Huiying building. Lord Kakashi will temporarily join the dark side and lead our class and the other two task classes ninjas to Inran village to carry out missions. After the task ends today, everyone should prepare in advance. The three nodded and quickly dispersed towards their own guarded area. I didn't expect my village to react so quickly. It seems that they have received a lot of intelligence from their fellow travelers. Suxin thinks that Mike can make big moves so quickly, and his sense of crisis is really sharp. After silently observing 3 seconds of silence for his fellow travelers in Inran village, Suxin began tonight's operation. He arrived at the Hokage building with ease, transforming into a shadow and entering the secret room through the cracks between the walls. There were several huge display racks in the secret room, on which he saw a huge scroll and some different styles of ninja tools. Suxin opened his eyes and saw the entangled blue energy on the scroll, indicating that some warning had been issued for prohibition. At first glance, it seems that Naruto was able to steal the sealed book on purpose by the monkey-flying sun slayer. He casually picked up a painless object on the display shelf. Feilation Kowu. Kowu, used by the 4th generation Hokage, can recover 5,000 fantasy coins. Is this the exclusive weapon of the 4th generation Hokage? Indeed, it is of great value. Then the other things should also be good. Suxin looked at the other items on the display rack, his sinful little hand eager to try. Pillar Giant Sword, Limited Weapon. Immortal Body Limited, can recover 8,000 fantasy coins. Thunder Sword. The 2nd generation Hokage's sword contains the power of thunder and can recover 8,000 fantasy coins. He decisively collected 2 limited weapons and obtained 13,000 fantasy coins. Spend 2,000 to improve Shadow Step skill. Shadow Raid. Magic Modification 2, Level A. Able to transform shadows, expend mental energy to flash to a designated location within 1,200 meters, stack all shadow power during this period, and bless the first attack after breaking the shadow. Strong. Very strong. The skill level has been upgraded from level C to level A. With this skill, although the world of ninja is large, where can it go? The next upgrade skyrocketed from 2,000 fantasy coins to 20,000 fantasy coins, with each consumption increasing by 10 times, making it a bottomless pit. We need to hurry up, the first bird whistle will sound soon. He quickly picked up the sealed book. Sealed book, valuable item. A scroll that records the inheritance of numerous forbidden spells and can recover 100,000 fantasy coins. White lights appeared rapidly from around the sealed book, forming a huge white light shield that trapped Suxin inside. He saw the white light penetrating the wall, and the long chirping of bird whistles could already be heard outside. Suxin looked at the light mask in front of him, not realizing that there was a sealing barrier set on this sealed book, and he was almost discovered. Breaking the delusion of white eyes, open up. He quickly put the sealed book on his back and opened his eyes. The small red dot in the lower right corner of the barrier is constantly flashing, which should be the flaw of this barrier. Pulling out the Thunder God's sword, he thrust it with all his strength above the red dot, and the barrier shattered in response, transforming into a thread of energy stretching across the sky. He transformed into a shadow and quickly left the Hokage building. If he hadn't been reluctant to part with this Thunder God's sword and the seal book, he really wanted to stay and continue pretending. With the skill of shadow assault, he became a bit bloated. This sealed book is somewhat different from what he thought, and there is no way to directly learn the skills inside. Do you want me to practice slowly? Suxin could not help complaining in his heart, but he was soon relieved. As long as you make a copy of everything recorded in the sealed book, can this sealed book be directly recycled? Earning 100,000 fantasy coins for nothing, no wonder it's a valuable item, truly a good thing. The whistles of birds in 3 directions kept whistling, and the people in the dark quickly noticed that there was a problem with the location of the gluttony. Soon, many figures appeared in front of the Huiying building, many of whom Suxin could call by name. Monkey Flying Sun / Jitsuan Tuanzang, Kakashi, Might Kai, Hinata Filial Piety, Pig Deer Butterfly Combination, and so on. All the strong men on the surface of the Wooden Leaf appeared here, and the alarm in the Wooden Leaf village has not sounded for many years. Ape Flying Sun / quickly entered the Hokage building and flew out in just a moment. The sealed book and several Hokage's ninja tools have been stolen. Kakashi, you quickly lead the dark forces to block the entire village, and no one can be allowed to leave. The Monkey Flying Sun / suppressed his anger, and this kind of thing actually happened in my Tianzong, what exactly is going on? He looked at the members of the dark side who were on duty at the Hokage building today, and his tone was not good. There was no movement, but suddenly a barrier light emerged from the Hokage building and immediately dissipated. We immediately issued a warning. Also, our new team member, Binge Eating, is missing. New team member. Monkey Flying Sun was taken aback for a moment, and then turned his gaze to Hinata Xiaoxiao. Hinata was shocked, but what he was worried about still happened. Lord Huiying, that person must not be from my Hinata clan, maybe it was those people from other worlds who did it. There won't be any problems sooner or later, but it happened that he had problems when he came to be on duty. Do you think there were any problems? Ape Flying Sun Zhan was a bit angry, as he had never made such a big mistake since taking control of the village. I guarantee with the reputation of the Hinata family that we will never do such a thing. Hinata Hirata must have been killed by people from another world. Our Hinata family and people from another world never cease to die. Hinata's filial eyes were desolate, and this shit pot must not be pinned on the head of the Hinata family. Oh, Teacher Xiao, it's not appropriate for me to curse like this. Who's there? Who is that? Everyone in the room was shocked and looked towards the direction of the sound. Chapter 9. Nian Dong Sniper. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Suxin's figure slowly turned into substance and appeared several tens of meters away from the crowd of Mai. It's a sealed book. Everyone recognized the things on his back. He opened his eyes to prevent anyone from sneaking in. Ping Tai. Hinata Xiao exclaimed in surprise, his face full of disbelief. People from the Hinata family. What exactly do you Hinata family want to do? Everyone in the field exclaimed in surprise, is the Hinata family planning to launch a rebellion? Ape Flying Sun / also turned his gaze to Hinata, as if seeking an answer. We, the Hinata clan, will always be loyal to Kiba and Lord Hokage. Hinata, and Hinata knelt down in front of the monkey flying and Hinata slaying in place, grabbing the ground with their heads and speaking earnestly. Funny. The descendants of the noble Otoka clan, the inheritor of the heavenly white eyes, are they going to fall to the point of being treated as dogs by others? Suxin laughed and his body kept shaking, as if going crazy. You servants are not worthy of the surname Hinata. I will expel you all from the Hinata family under the name Hinata Hirata. Suxin's words were like a reversal of the heavenly gang, which greatly boosted the popularity of the Hinata family present. I will kill you here today to prove the innocence of my Hinata family. Hinata's white eyes instantly opened and he was about to come forward and kill Suxin, but was stopped by the monkey Flying Sun / Your Excellency is definitely not Hinata Hirata. Please return the sealed book and all the weapons of the previous Hokage. We will not make it difficult for you. Ape Flying Sun / knew in his heart that the other party, who had already succeeded and dared to act in such a way, must have an unimaginable trump card. The matter of sealing a book is of great importance and must not be overlooked. Master Huiying is still sensible, but unfortunately, you can't grasp this thing. See you next time. After Suxin finished speaking, his whole body instantly turned into a shadow, flickering thousands of kilometers away. Under a few consecutive flashes, the person had already left Kiba village. The flicker of the shadow raid consumes much more mental energy than usual, and with his current strength, he can only flicker continuously for about 10 times, which should be the limit. A constant stream of negative emotions flowed into Suxin's body from all directions, and he felt his strength skyrocket, giving his body an uncontrollable sense of strength. The stronger the negative emotions of a person, the greater their improvement. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Is it time-space ninjutsu? How could it be? The people in my village who were being played with were almost furious. White eyes, open up. Hinata let out a loud shout and opened his white eyes to search everywhere, only to find any traces elsewhere. Ape Flying Sun Slayer let out a long sigh. He had already guessed that since the other party dared to show up, they just didn't take them seriously. It's difficult to retrieve this sealed book. Rank Hinata Hirata as an S.level trader and arrange for someone to go to the black market and offer a high reward. There's no need to blockade the village, let's all go back. Ape Flying Sun Jean understood that in the face of such a terrifying ninja, dispatching the elites of his village was a waste of time. His expression was a bit desolate. If the Feng Shui Gate were still alive, that would be great. He slowly walked towards the Huiying building, his figure slightly hunched. Lord Huiying is still getting old. Kakashi couldn't help but sigh when he saw the desolate back of the third generation of Huiying. Suxin retrieved his package from the forest without changing his appearance, only restoring his body proportions to normal. His commotion will be accompanied by a continuous stream of negative emotions, and his mental and physical strength will continue to improve. Based on what he has done, the Shao organization should take the initiative to seek and win him over. This is one of Suxian's plans to join the Shao organization under the guise of betrayal and tolerance, to see if they can benefit from it. Give him enough time, he may be able to navigate this fantasy world alone. Time waits for no one, so he decided to go to Inran village first to see the situation there. The Sabrian family is the most uncontrollable factor. He spent another 1,000 fantasy coins to improve his shooting proficiency to become a mind-powered sniper. Mind Power Sniper. Magic Modification 2, Level A. Mark a target, within 3,000 meters, with your mind and shoot a compressed mental bullet that can penetrate physical objects at super high speed. After hitting the target, deal mental penetration and explosive damage. As for the improvement of other skills, there is currently no need. The upper limit of advanced breathing techniques is a bit low, and more powerful skills are still needed. With the power of mind and the ability to snipe and ambush shadows, he can now walk horizontally in this world, at least to save his life. Put the sealed book and the thunder sword into the tactical backpack, these two things are a bit eye-catching. I need to find some skills to seal scrolls or items. It's too troublesome to always carry a bunch of things like this. Suxin thought of a ninjutsu technique in the world of Naruto that allows for daily storage of items. After learning the route to the fire country from several passing villagers, Suxin went alone to the fire capital. When he arrived at the city of fire, the sun was almost setting. The vermilion city walls are bathed in the afterglow of the sunset, shining like molten copper and iron in flames. Above the city gate hangs a flag with the words, "Bathing Phoenix," and there are many pedestrians entering and exiting the gate. Just as he stepped into this city, Suxin saw rows of stone buildings with dark red tiles covering the roofs, sparkling like flames under the sunset. The streets are bustling with people, and there are many vendors selling daily necessities on both sides. There is a magnificent palace in the center of the city, and Suxin speculates that it is the residence of the daimyo of the Fire Kingdom. He bought a map of the ninja world from a grocery store. After careful study for half a day, he discovered a very serious problem. To go to Inran village, go in the opposite direction. It is about 1,000 kilometers from his current location to Inran village. If he walks on his own, there won't be enough time left for the next few days. A convenient means of transportation is also very necessary, which will greatly facilitate his actions in the fantasy world. Suxin followed two wandering ninjas to find a money exchange, and he needed a start-up fund. This is a wooden house hidden deep in the alleyway of the Fire Kingdom, very inconspicuous. There are no signs on the door, and many people entering and leaving are rebellious. A cut was made on the forehead guard. Suxin pushed open the door, and in front of him was a huge space with dim lighting. The walls around are made of stone bricks with a strong sense of time, which look damp and oppressive. There are many dilapidated round tables in the house, and many mysterious people wearing cloaks sit together. The air was filled with the smell of blood and herbs, which were the smell of dried blood and ointment. Although there is some noise in the gold exchange, everyone maintains a certain level of vigilance. This is an underground world where the law of the fittest prevails, and a slight lack of attention may attract the attention of others. Suxin saw a somewhat familiar figure. He was wearing a black-red cloud-patterned cloak. The face is wrapped in a thick layer of fabric, and the forehead is protected by a downward arrow, with a cut in the middle. Dark green eyes were deep and terrifying, staring coldly at Suxin. Chapter 10. Jiaodu. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Suxin immediately recognized the man staring at him. Jiaodu. He couldn't help but feel that the efficiency of my village was very high, and he was wanted so quickly. Suxin looked at Jiaodu and grinned. Do you want my head? Jiao nodded, his voice a bit hoarse. Just a thief, worth 500 million taels. And your heart is also good, very young and strong, which can increase my lifespan a lot. Suxin was a bit surprised, he didn't expect himself to be so valuable. Are you sure you're ready for me? I am a legendary ninja who can fight against the first generation of Hokage. Suxin pursed his lips, and it was considered a big battle to leave Kuwu at a distance of 800 meters. Without revealing it, he casually put a mental power mark on the corners. His figure instantly turned into a shadow, his eyes widened, and his figure had already flickered a few streets away. Let's give you a try to see how powerful this power sniper is. Suxin's mind twitched, and a mental bullet shot through the wall and hit the forehead of Jiaodu. Jiaodu felt a sharp pain in his brain and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, causing him to lose control and fall to the ground. He was extremely shocked in his heart. The opponent's moves were too sinister, even more so than those of Fei Duan. If it weren't for his special body, a normal person would probably have died in the hands of the other person. The opponent's attack was extremely eerie, not only without any movement, but also ignoring his earth retreat defense. In the field of vision, the corners lie motionless on the ground. Suxin knew he was pretending to be dead. This guy has 6 hearts, and only by blasting all 6 of them can he truly be killed. 5 consecutive mental bullets were fired into Kikuru's chest. He didn't know how many hearts had been knocked out by these series of attacks, but he panicked when he saw them. With a flash of his figure, Jiaodu rushed out of the gold exchange and fled. Can you escape the glare and flicker? Innocent. Suxin's smile was cold. Although his frontal combat ability was not strong, his pursuit ability was definitely one of the best. His mother. No wonder you gave 500 million liang. Grass. He had never encountered such a difficult ninja in his life. He only saw the other person once, and the person was almost gone. The other party occasionally touches their chest as if they know their abilities. This feeling is terrible. He knew the other party was playing with him, but he had no choice. Suxin had no intention of killing Jiaodu, as Jiaodu's abilities were not what he wanted. Jiaodu's abilities look very evil, not very compatible with his sunny appearance. He also needs to return to the Shao organization to promote himself. Suxin flickered not far from the corner, his eyes teasing. A legendary ninja who can fight against the first generation of Hokage. Can you speak well now? I can't save you even if I kill 6 hearts, I said. Jiaodu was originally thinking about whether he could sneak an attack, but he didn't expect his opponent to directly reveal his abilities. Who exactly is your excellency? Why are you so familiar with my abilities? It's just a thief. I heard that Master Jiaodu has a lot of wealth. I wonder if it's possible to rescue him in the martial arts world. The corners of his mouth twitched twice, feeling somewhat speechless. It's been so many years, it's the first time he's been robbed by someone else, and he can't help but give it away. He took out a stack of banknotes from his pocket, slowly pushed them away, and placed them on the ground. His gaze remained fixed on Suxin's face, afraid that he would not speak of martial arts and sneak attacks. I have offended you. This small amount of silver will be considered as a compensation to your excellency. After finishing speaking, the body slowly retreated and a teleportation technique ran towards the distance. Suxin used his eyes to check the paper currency on the ground and confirmed that it was not something like a detonating symbol. He is still a bit uneasy about the character of this guy from Jiaodu. A banknote of 10,000 pairs in one color should add up to over 100 pieces. Undoubtedly, he is the master of the horde, and his spending is really generous. For many ninjas, over 1 million taels is not a small amount. Suxin returned to the gold exchange and did not encounter any more ninjas who were bothering him. As a bounty hunter licking blood on the blade, most ninjas still have points in their hearts. An excessively high bounty is often a life-threatening talisman. The S-level rebellious ninja in my village, who was the last one. It was Uchiha Itachi who killed the entire Uchiha clan. 1 million taels is enough to buy a few bags of military food pills. Suxin left 100,000 taels of travel expenses, and all the others were replaced with military food pills. Soldier Grain Pill. Quickly restores physical and mental strength, provides a large amount of heat, and can recover 10 fantasy coins. A bag of military grain pills contains about 20 pieces, and Suxin bought a total of 5 bags, which can also be exchanged for 1,000 fantasy coins. Collecting enough wealth can also be converted into enough fantasy coins, but it takes a lot of time. Suxin seems to understand why the Cybertron family has established strongholds in many fantasy worlds, perhaps also hoping to harvest resources from fantasy worlds in the long term. Harvesting all resources at once may be enjoyable, but the right way to maximize benefits is through continuous flow. In fact, with the level of strength of the exchange, Suxin can activate the "I don't eat beef" mode. However, those who do not follow the rules will not have a good reputation in the circle of tolerance, which will also affect their subsequent actions. Suxin sat on the carriage to Inren village overnight and spent 20,000 taels. I learned from the owner of the post station that it will take about 3 days to reach Inren village. Big brother, are you a ninja? Inside the carriage, a little boy with a powder carving and jade carving curiously pointed at Suxin's forehead protector. A middle-aged man who looked somewhat overweight quickly held his hand and looked apologetically at Suxin. I'm sorry to trouble you. Suxin waved his hand, indicating that it was okay. It's okay, children. It's normal to have a little curiosity. The man felt a little uneasy upon seeing this. Ninjas are not good people, they are all those who kill people like a horse. If you encounter an unreasonable ninja and just take an extra look at them, you may lose your life. Enemy attack. Prepare for battle. Suddenly, the cries of the station warriors came from outside the carriage, possibly due to encountering bandits robbing the road. The world is a bit unstable. Suxin thought to himself that this was already the 3rd battle they had encountered on their journey. The warriors at the relay station have strong combat abilities, and they can easily deal with these ordinary mountain bandits. Get everyone out of the carriage, Grandpa. The battle ended quickly when an arrogant shout came from outside the carriage. Get off everyone. The ninja wearing a rebellious forehead lifted the curtain of Suxin's carriage and was stunned when he saw him. Be careful, ninjas with wooden leaves. He quickly closed the curtain and made a mark in his hand. Fire escape, great fire. Ah! When Suxin heard the other party shouting, he fired a powerful sniper shot, directly interrupting their ninjutsu. The ninja suffered a mental trauma and fell unconscious on the ground. Flying out of the carriage, Suxin saw a group of rebellious people wearing different protective covers. White-eyed. At the moment of seeing Suxin, these rebellious leaders exclaimed in surprise. Have you seen all of them? It's just a matter of indifference. If we sell it to other ninja villages, we'll make a fortune. After finishing this order, we can stop and enjoy the good fortune. Ha ha ha, the 6 immortals bless me.